everyone, it's Missy, and today I'm going to show you how I sew the tank top by Liberty Jane Clothing. And this is a free pattern on their website, and I have a link to it in the description below. But basically, you have two pieces to the pattern. You have the back, and you have the front. And I already cut out my fabric pieces, but you just have the fabric folded over. You trace this and then you cut it out, making sure not to cut along the fold, so you have one main piece for the front. And then for the back, it says to cut two. So I just had the fabric folded again, and then I cut two by cutting along the seam here. So I get two pieces, and you want to make sure that they're mirror images. You can also put your pattern on your fabric like this and then flip it over and trace this way too, just as long as you have a mirror image of the back. And now we're ready to sew. My sewing machine is the Brother Embroidery and Sewing Machine, or the SC400, also known as the Enthusiast. And so if you have this machine, you can do the same setup as me. Basically what I have is I have my straight stitch on the left align, I have my automatic reverse, and my automatic cut is on. My stitch length is 2.5 millimeters, and I don't have my zigzag on at all. It's just a basic straight stitch. And then for my thread, I'm using a white cotton all-purpose sewing thread. I have the same in my bobbin. I'm using my zigzag foot. If you have a straight stitch foot, I recommend using that. And then my needle is set for cotton fabric. So the first thing you want to do is you want to sew the shoulders together. So make sure that the right sides are facing. And I have one back on, and we're just going to sew along the top here. I use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, which my machine already has a diagram on the bottom here that says 1/4 inch. I put my needle down, and we're ready to sew. I don't pin my work usually when it's a piece this small, but if you need pins, go ahead and pin the piece together before you sew it. I'm also go very slow, so I have control of my work, but with practice you will get faster. I haven't sewn for a while, so I'm just going slow, just so I don't make a mistake, and also so you can see what I'm doing. I'm just hitting my automatic reverse, and my sewing machine sews for me. I don't have to touch it or anything, and it cuts my fabric, but if you have to, just hold your reverse down and reverse for about 3 stitches, go forward, and then you can remove your piece and cut your thread. So once it's sewn, it looks like that, and then we just open it up, and we have a nice shoulder, and at the iron, I will iron the seam so it is open and flat before we go on to the next step. But make sure you do this for both sides, so I'll be doing this side. I take my back, put it to my front, right sides are together, and again it's a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Oh, and also make sure to reverse your stitches when you're starting out. Like I said, my machine now is automatic for me, so I don't even think about that. I did start sewing on an old machine where I had to think about every single thing before I got this one, and this one has been a lifesaver for me. There we go. So we'll go back to the ironing board and we'll iron these seams open. Being this is a cotton fabric, I have my iron set to my cotton fabric setting, which is the highest setting. But whatever fabric you're using, make sure that you review the instruction manual for your iron to know, or usually it says even on the iron, which setting you should have for what fabric. But I just finger press my seams open, and then I come over with my iron, and then I give it a good press. I also like to use some steam to make sure that the seam is flat, because we will be sewing over this in the next step. For the next step, I'm changing my foot from my zigzag all-purpose foot to this hammer foot. I strongly recommend that you use this in the next part of the project. If you don't have one of these, you can iron over the seam or the hem itself and just straight stitch it around. But it is very, very difficult, and this foot actually makes the job so much easier. So I have that on there, and then on my sewing machine, I actually go to the center stitch. I can do the left, but it is so close to the edge that the center always makes me feel a little bit more comfortable that my hook isn't going to hit the edge of this foot. Because this foot isn't a brother foot, it's actually a universal one, the cheaper one that I found in a kit. I have, I could show you my kit too. This is the kit that I bought. I found it on Amazon. It comes in its own carrying case. It has the walking foot, which does not work on my machine. I tried it one time and it just doesn't work, which I thought, oh no, but all the rest of them do. And these are all feet that can be used on any machine that has a low shank adapter. So I use them all the time, especially the gathering foot and this hammer foot, because it came with 15, so you can see all the different ones. I've just been very happy with this product, except for the fact that my walking foot does not work on my machine too well, but I do, is I don't iron or anything. I just go, the wrong side should be facing up, and then I just fold over about 1/4 inch of my seam allowance to get started, and I just finger press it and place it under the foot, and then I put my foot down. I take my needle and I push it through the fabric and I lift up my foot, and I don't know if you guys can see this too well or not. I'm going to see if you can get a closer look. There's actually a spiral or a corkscrew or whatever you want to call it. The fabric just folds right in there. So you don't have to fold over the fabric as you go. The machine's supposed to do it for you, and then I just put my foot down. And then I just take a few stitches forward. That looks like it's going to work out pretty well. This is a little tricky for people who are just starting out with this foot because we're on a curve versus going straight down a piece of fabric. But like I said, it works out very well. So just keep practicing with it. I was absolutely, I did not like it at first. I was so upset with it, but after I practiced, it got better. There we go. So I have to make sure that my fabric is curling over just enough, but I'm also following the curve of the pattern for the armhole. And we do this on both the armholes, we do this around the collar, and we do this on each open side of the back. There we go. I'm sorry I got my hand in the way earlier. I have to stop now. Okay, and so you guys can see it a little better. I'm going to try to move the camera over to the other side, see if I can get it in closer for you to see it as I'm working with it. But this is what it did, and it just made a nice seam around the edge, and then, you know, I didn't get any kinks or anything. Usually I get kinks on the sides when I first started, like right here. I got a kink. I wonder if I can just iron that out. But other than that, it looks pretty good. So as you can see, we got all the hemming done. We got it up along the edge and around the collar, over around the other side and down the back side. And we have it hemmed around each armhole. So this has finished off most of the piece. Now I am changing my machine back to the regular straight stitch on the left hand side and my regular sewing foot, so that way I can sew my two sides together, making sure that my right sides are together, and then we will be ready to hem the bottom. So if you need to, I'm just going to quick switch my foot here. That's what I love about this quick attach method. You just snap one on and snap one back, or snap one off and snap one back on. It doesn't take a lot of work. You can pin your sides together. I am just going to eyeball it and get them as even as possible, like so. And again, I'm using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And making sure to follow the curves along each pattern. And then what I'll do when I'm finished is I'll take my iron and I'll iron these seams so they lay flat and they're open, and that way I can come around and do the hemming on the bottom. Okay, so I ironed my seams so they're nice and flat and they're open, and I already switched my foot back to my hammer foot, and I switched my stitching so that way it is center aligned on my machine instead of left aligned, and all we have to do is hem the very bottom of the shirt. That's the only part now that has not been stitched. And this will finish all the nice raw edges. The trick is, and it's nice and straight, so it should be fairly easy to start sewing. The only trick is to make sure that the seams are aligned. I'm just moving my fabric because it likes to catch on that hem that I did on the very end where the foot is. There we go. And sometimes when you go through the seams it likes to hold it there too. You just pull it through a little bit on the end and you'll be fine. I might be going a little too fast too, but you can get, as long as you know what you're doing, you can actually do this quite quickly. You don't have to be on the slowest stitching speed. Let's see. There we go. So all that's left after I trim my thread is to put on the Velcro, and I'll show you. I have a special stitch on my machine on how to do that, so I'll show you how you set that up. But otherwise we pretty much have a tank top. All we have to do is make the Velcro on the top and the bottom, so that way it will fasten to the doll. So here's how I have my machine set up. I have my regular sewing foot on, or my zigzag foot I should say, and I have my zigzag stitch set to 1 millimeter, and my stitch length is still 2.5 millimeters. This stitch is like it looks like a lightning strike to me. It's the one that's highlighted, and it is supposed to help to prevent knits from stretching. Instead of straight stitching knits, you have to give them that little zigzag stitch. But I have my Velcro cut. I cut it so it's just a little bit wider than 1/4 inch, so it's like 3/8 of an inch. And I just peel the two pieces apart, and I am going to sew this piece on. So this is my hook side, goes along the outside here. All I do is I just put it under my foot, try to get it so it's straight, and I drop my needle in, and I start to sew. And I'm going down the center of this Velcro. Then I lift up my foot, turn, make a few stitches down the bottom, and lift up my foot and turn, and this just ensures that the Velcro is just going to stay on and it's not going to curl up. So I got one piece of Velcro on. I'm going to put the other hook side on the bottom here, and then on the actual cloth side I'm going to make sure it's on the inside so when I shut it will secure. And here we have a finished tank top. And this one, like I said, opens and closes in the back now with the Velcro. It's all nicely finished. And you'll see that I have my tags in here. I sell on Etsy. You can actually find this product right on Etsy at the moment that I'm making this video. And I just have my little label here saying that it's Melinda's Closet Finds. I give the care instructions, her washing instructions, and of course my warning label to state that it is not made for anyone under the age of 3. So, and it's just a great thing to add to any doll clothes that you make and sell or give as gifts so people know how to care for the garments that you make, because they're a loving treasure. So thanks for watching. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. If you like my video, please give me a thumbs up, and I hope everyone has a great weekend. Bye!